What is good? We're back, and today, me and Austin are going to take you through the top 10 rookie wide receivers pre-combine. Now, we know the running backs and tight ends seem to be the belle of the ball, but there's some fun receivers in here, and I think this is going to be a fun conversation to go through the top 10. And hey, I couldn't even limit it to 10. When I got to like 9, I was like, there's a couple guys I really like in here. And so pre-combine, I'm sure things will change. We'll get other pieces to the puzzle, and then draft capital and all that stuff will come in. But, fun February exercise to kind of see where we're at, top 10. And, of course, this episode is presented by Fast Draft, fastest, easiest fast app on the planet. Use promo code FFD, and Fast Draft will double your first deposit to $25 using that promo code. All right, let's jump into it. I think we're going to be on the same page at number 1. I got Tet McMillan, number 1, and a tier. Where are you at here with number 1, Austin?
Yeah, no surprise, man. I'm 100% with you. I have Tet McMillan right there as my number 1 wide receiver in the 2025 rookie class as well, Casey. He's not in a tier of his own, right? I think there's a few other wide receivers, and not to go too far into the episode, but Egbuka, actually Burden as well, man. I believe all of these guys are in the same bucket, right? Although Tet is at the top, I believe he'll also be drafted first in the NFL draft.
Yeah, so I have him as tier 1. I think somewhat value wise, he feels like he's just got a little bit of gap between those guys. But I mostly agree that I wouldn't be surprised if any of the top other 4 or 5 wide receivers, or even 2 or 3 of them, jumped into that top tier and got us a little more excited. I feel like Tet's kind of waxed and waned through this period, and either people are really strong on him and say he's great, or some people will point to some contested catch numbers or however it be. But you have this big, pretty fluid wide receiver for how big he is, and that's really what stands out to me when we talk about Tet McMillan. Like, it's like the first thing that really stands out is him running a whip route, and you're like, damn, that's a big dude that runs a pretty nice whip route. And that kind of, I don't want to make it that simple, but like the flexibility, and it wasn't just a real stiff, ugly whip route. Like, it was a good, flexible, nice, chewed up the corner, got back outside. And that's the kind of stuff Tet can do, as well as being that kind of Mike Evans, Drake London style, where you could just get him down the field and attack as well. So I think there's a lot to like. And for me, having a tier break here, I think is a little more value driven in my head currently. So maybe that's the thing I need to break a little.
And funny enough, like, McMillan had more slot snaps as a freshman, 118, than he did this season, 105, for what it's worth, right? So something to keep in mind. Man, I'm actually, Casey, I know we talked about it just a minute ago. I'm heading to the NFL Combine for the very first time, so I'm pumped, man. It's going to be sick. So I hope that I get to interview, speak with Tet in person and just kind of pick his brain. Meeting a lot of these prospects at the Combine is going to be such an incredible experience. And I hope we see him participate in a lot of different drills. I'm not really sure. Like, remember we had Marvin Harrison Jr. last year, decided to sit out, which was obviously a business decision. Guess what? Newsflash. He still ended up being the first wide receiver selected, right. 4th overall. Right. So smart decision, just financially speaking, by Marvin Harrison Jr. I hope we don't see that from Tet or any of these other prospects, but I don't know, man. But yeah, just fun little nugget right there. Wanted to add that.
Yeah, no, I like it. Some other thing, I think there's some late hands and some good body control from Tet McMillan. So just a couple other strike zones, almost unlimited with him. And he, threw a pretty TD in there when you go through the tape with Tet. So lots of like there, and I do agree. I think he's going to be the highest draft pick of the wide receivers, and just seems right now to have a decent gap between him and all the other receivers when we're in startup wise and we're ADP wise for the rookies right now. FFD ADP, you can get all that through us. So make sure you check that out. All right. Give me your number 2 wide receiver right now, Austin.
Number 2 is Emeka Egbuka, man, and send him right to Pittsburgh. Send him to the Los Angeles Rams. Plug him in right away. He's good to go day 1, man. He's growing on me. Like, I've always liked Egbuka. I wish he came out even earlier, but God, he's just, I've gotten more bullish on him. He's so polished. He can do it all too, man, and not just on the field, off the field as well, in the locker room. Man, this is This is a good wide receiver right here. 6'1", 205 pounds, 22 years old. I think he's going to be a late first round pick in the 2025 NFL draft, Casey. I think he's going to sneak in. I really do.
Yeah. All right. I got Luther Burden the third at 2,
Okay.
and we're not at a tier break yet for you, are we?
No. Luther
Okay.
is the very next player in my rankings. They're
Okay.
in the
So
same tier.
Luther's at 3 for Austin, and is there a tier break there?
That's correct.
Okay. So currently you have Tet, Egbuka, and Burden and a tier break. And so I had Tet as a tier break. So I have Burden at 2. I have Harris, Tre Harris at 3, and Egbuka at 4, and a tier break. So let's talk a little Luther Burden. So I have him at 2, you have him at 3. What do you like about Luther Burden? Because I feel like you were maybe a little lukewarm on Burden at first. Warmed up a little, or just kind of he settled in for you?
I'm not even like a massive film guy, full transparency, man. And I'm just watching his tape and I'm just like, Austin, you're wrong. Like Casey, I'm with it, man. I am with it. He moves different, right? He's just got a different type of speed. He's shifty too, man. Right? Like
Yeah.
I've even seen and I hate it. It's the most lazy comp ever. Debo gets comp to every human being on planet Earth. It feels like every prospect, and I'm like, dude, he's nowhere remotely close to Debo. But like, I guess I could see some very minor similarities in the two. Right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
player comp, like a realistic player comp, like in terms of height, weight, Jahan Dotson, right? Another fun prospect that, rightfully so, we liked coming out to a certain degree. Again, 5'11", 205, 21 years old. Casey, 30 missed tackles forced this year. And this was like, again, a quote unquote down year for him. Those 30 missed tackles forced by Luther Burden led all of college football. And it's just pure evidence that this guy moves different than other wide receivers. So like that upside is very real. He has to be in tier one, in my opinion, in the wide receiver rankings for this 2025 class.
Yeah, no, I think all these guys in my tier 2, Burden, Harris, Egbuka, I think all of them can close this gap, and this could be a big, 1 through 4 tier for me eventually here. But yeah, Burden's my favorite wide receiver in this class. Just completely different from Ted, obviously, and we've talked about this before. But these kind of players are my kryptonite. These Yak Kings, I love it. But he can, I don't think you don't want to get it twisted, because Luther Burden will get you down the field. Like he can attack you vertically. Watch the South Carolina game from this year. Near the end of that game, just absolutely burns you, and then breaks a tackle, scores a touchdown. That's seared in my mind. But you can spam screens and slants to Luther all day if you want. He certainly can run some other routes, but you just want to get him the ball in his hands. And I understand where you're going with Debo, and nobody's Debo. We haven't seen a whole lot of Debos, just being that thick, kind of nasty type of player. But that's the kind of usage that you want to at least keep in mind when you're drafting Luther Burden and how you want to use him. You need to use him in other ways, because like I said, he can attack you down the field, but you want to get the ball in his hands. You want to get him running across the field. You want to get him some screens. But still, I think a pretty solid route runner. But I know some people are a little skeptical, but I just like the way he moves. I think he's too quick, too fast. I think he's really hard to deal with. He's ridiculous in a scramble drill situation. He's really tough in traffic, so quick. So the 23 season's the big season, right? 24, and people are, well, what happened to Luther Burden in 24? And why and it's just like, sometimes I think everyone just makes it a little too complicated. This is a really good player. 24 was weird. The Mizzou was weird. I don't have a great explanation outside of the way they were using him wasn't 1,000% correct. It seemed like he was almost a decoy a little bit more so than maybe he needed to be. Quarterback play was a little up and down, but in that 23 season, just 81% in the slot, absolutely shredded it. 10th in targets with 117, 10th in receptions, 10th in yards, 8 TDs, second in yak, fourth in yak per reception, third in yards per route run with 3.55, 27th in ADOT still with 13, and then 10 in missed tackles forced, and first in first downs. So the 23 was outstanding, and I'll stand on that tape all day long. And that's the guy who Luther Burden is, not so much of the 24. You still saw glimmers of 24, like I said, in that South Carolina game. The game, putting the team on his back there at the end of the game, trying to get that one. I'm not worried in the least of Luther Burden at all.
Like the tape wasn't even bad this year, Casey.
No.
94th percentile in separation score. The problem was the offense. It was the quarterback play, right? You know,
Yeah.
that you can only do so much, right? As a wide receiver, obviously you're going to be significantly limited when that comes into play, right? 88th percentile yards per route run over the last 2 seasons, sub 5% drop rate, 50% plus contested catch rate over the past 2 years, right? Like these are all things that you
Yeah.
want to see, right? The ability to create yards after the catch. That's what you're going to fall in love with. So
Yeah.
I'm ready to.
I think because he didn't outdo 23 or it wasn't at least comparable, people are just like, oh, maybe we were wrong. It's just like, the old comparison's the thief of joy. Like just watch the 23 tape and know that's there, right? And that's more of what he is than in 24. So you admit you got Egbuka one higher than me. He just seems like the ultimate safe player to take here. If you don't want to mess it up, go ahead and take Egbuka. He's going to be good. He might not be as sexy as maybe some of these other guys, but just a stud, just a professional, right? That's kind of my take on Egbuka, and I know you really like him there. He's grown on you, but no Tre Harris in this tier for you.
No, he's not quite there, man. He's had a very unique journey to get where he is, right? In some regard, like Xavier Leggett vibes, right? Where obviously doesn't break out, takes a while to really see success on the field, and that's okay, right? You don't have to go nuclear at 18, 19 years old. But yeah, again, a very unique path to success for Tre Harris. But boy, is there a lot to like about him, man. I
Yeah,
want to be very clear, like I really like Tre Harris, but
yeah.
I don't think he belongs in this tier.
So who's fourth then on your in your chart there?
Yep. So I have Travis Hunter 4 and 5 is Tre Harris. Now I want to say that Tre Harris could like look, Travis Hunter obviously very very difficult to evaluate, right? And I'm starting to lean more and more towards him playing corner in the NFL. And in the event that that does happen, yes, Tre Harris of course is going to jump him in my rankings. He would be my wide receiver 4. Where do you have him? Receiver 3? Did you
I
say?
got him at 3,
Okay.
right above Egbuka, but same
Okay.
tier.
Okay.
I left Hunter off of this for this exercise because
Okay.
I don't know. And so I didn't want to necessarily take up a spot. I think he's very good. I think he would be in this mix here in that tier with those guys. So, but yeah, so you got Tre Harris coming up next. I really like him. He just gives you a different flavor than these other guys, right? His calling card is more that physicality. He's a beast. He's built different than those dudes. Obviously, a little older. Came in from Louisiana Tech. He had 64 receptions and 925 yards and 10 TDs. He's had some drops throughout the career, but that's not something that really scares me up or scares me off. He was second in overall receiving grade this year. The yards per route run numbers versus man is insane with Tre Harris right now. It's like 5.15 or some crazy number. And the zone numbers are pretty strong as well. In 2023 with Ole Miss, he led them in yards with 851 on just 41 receptions, 18.1 yards per reception, 8 TDs, 3.18 yards per route run, 310 yards a yak, 13.4 ADOT led the team, and 38 first down, first on the team. And again, only 47 receptions. And that's just kind of what he did again this year, right? Missed a chunk of time. And hey, we could be a little concerned about injuries. Missed a chunk of time, but also came in here and just led that team when he was out there. And they definitely missed him when he wasn't out there. And now on those big numbers this year with the yards per route run versus man of being a huge number. And I think everybody saw the stat floating around yesterday, like the fastest that we've seen somebody against man coverage speed wise over 10 miles per hour, where I think Devonta Smith was like 6.8 was the next closest guy as far as, speed on versus man coverage there. And then I really, really like the player of Tre Harris. Like just not necessarily this crazy burner, but just gives me that big body X type possession vibe. Like Des Bryant would be somebody that kind of reminds me just stylistically of how they would play, just kind of a little bit of a bully. He's just a contested catch my ball mentality kind of guy. Just see him throw guys off his back constantly, just good body control. And the hands are plucky, but he will let it get on him and drop some here and there. But again, that's not something that ever really scares me off of somebody.
It's funny, man. Like I don't want to ever call anybody DK Metcalf because nobody on this planet is DK. But like I get it, right? I'm watching the tape of him, and again, like watching him throw players off his back, like you said, like it's evident. It was glaring. He's different, man. He's a
Yeah.
big dog. And I put out a tweet the other day, and it's so stupid, but it kind of makes you think, man. I love, like, for redraft purposes, I love the 17 game pace tweets. But this, if he played a full season in college, right, that would have been 13 games. You want to hear his pace? Now, granted, it didn't happen. You could say, Austin, shut up, but I'm still going to rip off the numbers. If he played a full healthy season, he basically missed 6 of the 13 games. He was on pace for 110 receptions, 1,833 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Okay.
Yeah.
Mind you, he's 6'3, 210. Like nobody had 1,400 yards in college football, Casey. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying he could have had 1,800, but like that was his pace. Like, dude was just popping off. He had 175 yards in 50% of the games he played this year. Not 175 yards or more in 50% of the games. So he
Yeah.
was cooking, man.
Yeah, and I lost my train of thought when I was saying this before, for transparency here. But when we're looking at those yards per route run numbers versus man and zone, and some you could say, hey, well, he played Furman and Middle Tennessee State and Georgia Southern to
Mhm.
start, and
Yep.
bad competition or whatever. And hey, that's fine, but that's what you're supposed to do against those
Yeah.
teams. You're supposed to just dog them. And then he came back and he had 11 receptions for 176 yards against Kentucky. 3 for 81 versus South Carolina, 7 for 102 against LSU, and then 1 for 43 against Florida. But we, obviously wasn't healthy there. But let's not just pretend that yeah, he beat up on those other teams, but those are SEC teams that he just went in and beat them boys up too. So don't get it twisted on well, he just beat up on cupcakes. Yeah, he did beat up on cupcakes, but that's what he's supposed to do. So I love Tre Harris. I think the needle is currently just moving and thriving on Tre Harris. Like he's a really good value right now where you can get him in some of the rookie mocks, and where we've been tracking him, like he's like in the 2-3, 2-4 area, I think, right now in Superflex tight end premium. And then in startups, like he just floats around. And I think that's going to all really change here. I feel like the more and more information's coming out about him. And I feel like he's going to be kind of solidifying up in this top 4 here relatively soon. So that's where I'm at there. All right, let's go on to number 5. Who you got at 5? You had Travis Hunter, or you had Tre Harris rather, right?
Yeah, we don't have to talk about Travis Hunter. I understand that. But Tre Harris was 5 or 4, however you want to put it. But the next wide receiver after that, it was Jayden Higgins.
So what's your takeaway with Jayden Higgins?
Man, he checks so many boxes, right?
Yeah.
It's the hands. It's the number one thing with Jayden Higgins, right? That plus, I mean, the size. That's something that you can't ignore, right? 6'4", 216. He's only 20 years old, right? And I don't like to throw on these player comps. Like I know we've talked about DK or Debo, some of these really successful receivers at the next level. But in all seriousness, man, when you turn on the tape and you're watching Jayden Higgins, I mean, Drake London is going to cross your mind. I really mean that, right? Over the last 3 years, talk back to Jayden Higgins. Over the last 3 years, just 4 drops, Casey, on 295 targets, right? So he's just one of the most slept on wide receiving prospects in this class.
Yeah, no, PFF had him at number 1 in their grade, which again doesn't necessarily indicate much of anything. Just in his receiving grade, he was the number 1. Like you said, bigger guy. I kind of like him in the slot. That was one of my takeaways. I think he's operates really well in the middle of the field there for how big he is. I guess I don't remember what the Drake London stats were slot versus wide. I mean, Higgins was in the slot 28% of the time and out wide 71% of the time. But when he was in the slot, man, I liked what I saw there. I think he could make some good hay in the as a big slot in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it, Casey. I think it was like 29.1% lined up in the slot. Like it just wasn't enough. We needed to see more. I mean, it's slant routes, like red zone monster, just finding ways to separate. Those are just a few things that caught my attention while watching Jayden Higgins at Iowa State.
Yeah.
Just to wrap things up, though, on him, and then I'll kick it right back to you. Right, I think he's going to be a day 2 darling. I think he's going to go round 2. Might be mid early to mid round 2 in the 2025 NFL draft. But yeah, it's the physical traits, like the nuance in his route running. He's going to really make a name for himself at the next level.
I like Higgins a lot. I think he's been a good riser. He got some good Senior Bowl buzz, and he's continued trajectory up. And let's see how the testing goes. All right, let's move on to Matthew Golden, who's a darling right now. Just getting so much love from all the analysts, getting high capital in mocks, and kind of came out of nowhere this year, right? They Isaiah Bond was supposed to be the guy. They have a good young wide receiver over there. They got Gunnar Helm, but Matthew Golden has kind of emerged as this sleeper cell here that people love, and good size, good weight, and just a pretty good all around receiver. Like, it seems like he can kind of operate on 3 levels of the field, can play some different positions, tough with the ball in his hands. So, what do you like about Matthew Golden, and why do you think he's been ascending so much?
Yeah, he just really became arguably the best version of himself in 2024, right? At least in comparison to what we'd seen prior to that. I know, in case I know we touch on this, like Matt Miller having him at 12th overall was just absurd. Like,
Aggressive,
what are
aggressive.
we doing? How many clicks do you want? Because you're gonna get all of them.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see the 40 time. Like, I'm interested to see him at the combine next week. I want to see him do the gauntlet drill, man. I like that's a very telling drill that
Mm,
I pay a lot of attention to.
sure.
Look, these are all pieces to the puzzle, as you
Of
always like to
course.
say, right? Like there's a lot of pieces, and we're just gathering a few next week. But yeah, I want to see how he performs, man. Like with Matthew. In case I'll get back to your question in a second, but I don't view his statistics to be like an accurate representation of what he did this year, right?
Yeah.
I think it was actually some nagging injuries, up and down quarterback play with Ewers, obviously Arch coming in occasionally. Like there was just a lot of meat left on the bone for Matthew Golden this year, right? So if you were impressed with him, if you thought he was really good this year, again, like I know I said he was the best version of himself that we've seen, but there's higher highs for Matthew Golden, right? And
Yeah.
sorry, go on, go on.
No. I think that's kind of. I think you're getting right to it. There is. I think that's why the draft and those pundits are kind of liking him, because it doesn't even seem like we're where we can go with Golden, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're an NFL GM or just drafting someone in Dynasty, whoever you are, you always want to take these players with that
Yeah.
game breaking upside, right? That type of player that can really elevate your team and be the difference. So,
Yeah.
Matthew Golden, I get it, I understand it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got Royals in this tier. He's a favorite of mine. I almost had him above Golden because I like him a lot. Again, that kind of thick bodied receiver, 5'11, 210. Obviously had a bit of an injury this year, and missed some time. But boy, he was on pace for an excellent season. 81 targets, 55 receptions, 839 yards, 6 TDs, 5.3 a reception, 436 yak yards in just 7 games is awesome. 3.0 yards per route run, which is very solid. 17 missed tackles forced is ridiculous in 7 games.
Mhm.
34 first downs. That's really solid. But, just gives you, a thick, big bodied guy who can I think he can get you vertically. But again, I like him with the ball in his hands. And these are my kryptonite type of guys. But he, I think one of the shows we just did, you comped him maybe to a Rashi Rice. Was that you?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and I like that, man. I like that little thicker guy coming out. But Jalen Royals is got my eye and got a lot of attention from me right now. Hopefully that foot can be right. And they were saying maybe he wasn't even 100% at the Senior Bowl, but was still kind of doing his thing out there. So Utah State, Jalen Royals, big fan for me. And then rounding out this tier, Jack Bech. Obviously, again, another big Senior Bowl riser here and put him on the radar. But then when you locked in and watched the tape, and people were calling him this year's Puka, but I'm not sure if they were calling him this year's Puka because of being a sleeper. But the play style does kind of match. Like, he's just a tough, gritty, physical guy. He's big bodied and strong. He's not going to be a burner, but he kind of knows where to be, knows where to sit, and just could be a kind of a spark for your
Mhm.
offense. And while he's not going to be some crazy vertical stacking ability, he is decent. He knows how to position his body. He's good in the contested catch game. Strong receiver. So Bech really made an impact on me and rounds out this tier for me.
Yeah, I want to go back to Jalen Royals real
Sure.
quick, Case. He's my wide receiver 7 in this class. Wide receiver 8, if you include Travis Hunter, I just want to mention that. He's the one guy, Casey, that I am so afraid of that I'm gonna get burned on, right? Like, I think I'm too bearish on him.
Ooh, too bearish. Okay.
Yeah, I think Jalen Royals could candidly be the top 5, top 4 type of wide receiver,
I
right?
agree.
I think he's that good. He's just another blazer, man. He does everything you want, just this modern day type of wide receiver to do. It was the touchdowns were ridiculous. I
Yeah.
just stupid, right? Over 1,900 yards and 21 touchdowns in his first 2 years, but 15 touchdowns in his first season, dude. I mean, you don't do that by accident. Come on. I mean,
Yeah.
17 for 23 contested catch rate. Like, what is this, Madden? Am I playing my 9-year-old no, my 9-year-old cousin would probably beat me in Madden, but just stupid numbers, man. I mean, the hitch routes, right? Screens, those were his bread and butter. To
Mhm.
tell you the truth, like Jalen Royals looked really good this year. And he was playing through his foot injury, Casey. Like, I don't know how bad it was. It,
Yeah.
it didn't matter. He was cooking.
Right.
I'm not phased by the durability red flags. I want to mention that. I don't buy into that narrative. I think he's a hell of a value at his ADP right now. And I think, if I'm an NFL GM looking to add a legit wide receiver 2 to my team, I'm feeling good about this pick right here.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. I like the calling out that he could. I think he could easily be one of the guys that's up in that top 4 or 5. Without, I mean, I got him at 6. I almost threw him at 5, but I think at the end of the day, I had our buddy Luigi on, and we talked a little Royals, and we've talked Royals a few times in different pods, and we both kind of came away with we wouldn't be surprised if he was the number 2 or 3 wide receiver in this
Mhm,
class when all said and
mhm.
done, because he's got good prospect there. Really like where Royals could end up. I think I'm going to end up with a lot of Royals here if it doesn't get too crazy. So, all right, hit me with the rest of your rankings here for the top 10, Austin.
Yep. To round out my final tier, I have Isaiah Bond. It was Jalen Royals, and then Xavier Restrepo. Now, I guess we'll talk about Bond for a hot sec. That cool with you,
Sure.
Casey?
Yeah.
So so this is a prospect, Casey. It's the opposite of Royals. I'm worried I'm too bullish on Bond, right? Deep down, I do feel like Royals is way safer. I think Royals should be ranked above Bond, even though I have Bond a hair above him right now. He's fun though, man. Like, this is a really intriguing prospect. The high ceiling that we always love to see, Casey. Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver out of Texas.
Sure.
Projected draft capital. I think we're in that late second round, right? 5'11", 181 pounds, 20 years old. Just want to give you a background image. Again, like, he's not going to go run that Xavier worthy 4.21. And it's just an unrealistic speed, right? Nobody's going to do that. But I think we could see him hit that 4.29, 4.3, 4.31 range. I think he's really going to fly at the NFL Combine. Out of all wide receivers, I think he's probably top 2, top 3. I mean, he could finish as the fastest wide receiver in this class. Would not surprise me in the slightest. But a big piece for me, Case, is it's the production, man. It matters so much. I want to see collegiate production. It is very important in my evaluations. We didn't have a whole lot of production from Isaiah Bond. We didn't have that breakout
Yeah.
year, right? We didn't see him dominate. We saw games, we saw plays, snaps. He looked good. He wasn't really able to put it all together for a long, extended period of time, and that worries me. Um, he would like run himself into coverage, just kind of. I don't know if it was I'm assuming it was unintentional. It was just like, I think it was an awareness issue, or maybe he's just not as quite polished at the position as I would like him to be, right?
Hmm.
I don't really necessarily know where he went wrong, but he's got a lot of flaws, man. It's the speed though that again NFL GMs will fall in love with. And hey, if you can move like that, man, you can make a name for yourself in the NFL, but you got to do more than just run quick. So
Yeah. No, I think the combine will help him get back in some good graces and be like, all right, yeah, we like Bond a good bit, but definitely a little bit of a disappointment this year because coming in, I think he was top 2 or 3 for a lot of people in some consensus rankings as far as prospects. So Yeah, Bond doesn't make the rest of the list for me. I got A.O. Manor at 9. I got Tony Horton Jr. at or Torrey Horton Jr. at 10. And
Mhm.
then I kind of couldn't make up my mind here. I had got Ricky White in here and Xavier
Yep.
Restrepo as well, kind of rounding out. We called it the top 10 and we'll give it the top 12. So like Horton and White, both older players, but they've really caught my eye through the film study. A.O. Manor, I've gone back and forth with how much I like him and if I'm concerned at all with him, but there's a lot to like there with A.O. Manor. He could have been in that next tier, but I kind of I wanted to make a distinction on him and Bech a little, and I think they're maybe a little similar, but I like Bech more currently. Those are kind of my rounding out my top 12, we'll say here. Any thoughts?
I mean, this is probably the best class you'll ever see, man. 2025 rookies doesn't get much better than that, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's like this is a class that it continues to grow on me as we get further along in the process. Again, like this combine, man, it's a huge piece to the puzzle. So I'm looking forward to it. I love the rookies, man. It's how do you not enjoy talking about them, Case? What are you
Yeah.
doing? You know?
Oh man, it's one of the best times of the year. It's exciting to get to know these guys and figure out who you like, and like you said, all these pieces of the puzzles kind of coming together. But yeah, no, and I might be a little higher on Torrey Horton Jr. and Ricky White than some people here, but Xavier Restrepo deserves a lot of love. I think he's a fun slot, thick, knows how to get open, tough to deal with, very productive throughout his career in Miami. A lot of fun guys here at the end. While the receiver class maybe isn't the bell of the ball, there's still going to be some good, exciting receivers, some different styles. I mean, some people really like Savion as a
Mhm.
raw prospect, so didn't make the list for me. Travis Hunter not on here just because we didn't really. Or for me at least, I didn't really know what to do with them. Any other honorable mentions you want to throw out there?
Nah, nobody I don't know. I think we're at a good number right here. We probably touch on 12, 13, 14 guys at least.
Yeah.
I think that, we got most of the big dogs listed right here.
Yeah. I'll throw Ty Felton's name in the ring. Could have a good combine and raise some stock. Had a really productive season at Maryland this last year. So want
Yeah.
to get him a little bit of love. He could come out there and tear up some agility drills and run a decent 40. He thinks he's going to run a fast 40. They all do. But I'll throw his name in the ring. But Ricky White and Torrey Horton Jr. are guys that I'm not leaving this draft without. They're older prospects, but they're really productive players, and you flip on the tape and it's a lot of fun. So really excited about those guys, and A.O. Manor's good as well. So all right, Austin, where can we find you? Let us know what we need to know about Austin Abbott right now.
Yeah, at Austin Abbott FF on Twitter. I just put out my 2025 rookie draft guide, top 25 rookie prospects, Dynasty Superflex rookie rankings, projected NFL draft capital. Lot of content in there. Little fun fact, Casey, 27 pages. It is bigger than any college paper I ever wrote in my life. I'm embarrassed, but that's a fact. So,
Yeah.
yeah, man, go check it out. I appreciate y'all, and
Yeah.
let's keep it locked and loaded.
If you're not already following Austin at Twitter or on the Twitters, make sure you, or the X, make sure you go do so. Like you said, is the draft guide free right now, or you gotta go Patreon?
You got to go Patreon.
Got, of course. Why wouldn't you? I thought there was a little giveaway there, but
Shoot me a DM. We'll talk maybe.
but hey, listen, we're putting in a lot of work. Go support your favorite people who do some stuff for you, and supporting these little kind of micro small businesses it means the world to everybody. And I know Austin's put a lot of work in there, so make sure you go check that out. You can come check us out on the Patreon side of things. $5 holler. We will have a rookie kit. We don't have 27 pages done just yet, but we're working on some analytical stuff, and then we'll have rankings and all that kind of good stuff in there. We have dynasty rankings, we have mock drafts, we have our own ADP for startup and for rookies. Lots of great stuff going on over there. There's also a free Discord for the FFD, so make sure you check that out. The mock draft Mondays that we do live, that's your best chance to get in there. We shoot that out to those people first, of course, and then you get an extra content when signing up for the $5 holler. for the pleasure chest for the FFD. And on the way out, if you haven't already from the beginning, make sure you've downloaded Fast Draft and you check it out. It's the fastest, easiest app on the planet. You use promo code FFD, you get double your first deposit up to $25 with our promo code. They've got a rookies only platform that's exclusive to Fast Draft. It's the Origins, and it's 10 teams, 6 rounds, 60 players. It's all rookies. It's so much fun. You're in and out of the draft really quick. And then they have the more traditional best ball, no quarterback in the other one, but it's 60 players. You don't have to have the biggest depth of knowledge to play that, and you're in and out, right? A lot of fun. You can take advantage of early ADP right now. Like, there's going to be combinations that you're putting together that you're not going to be able to put together here soon because, Harvey from UCF it might jump up a board, or our guy Jalen Royals might jump up a board. So you might not be able to get them where you're getting them right now. So maybe go try to exploit some ADPs. And when you do, use promo code FFD. All right. 5-star if you haven't already. We appreciate you. We'll catch you next time. And hey, make sure I'm assuming that is the content going to be on Austin Abbott's Twitter page for the combine or what?
Yeah, man. Hit us in the comments too. Give me good questions to ask a lot of these prospects at the combine. So I might just ask them. So it's gonna be good, man. It's gonna be really good.
Love it, man. That's awesome. That's exciting. Keep it locked and loaded with the FFD. We'll catch you next time. Peace.